But whatever I'm going to say here is true. And whatever I'm going to say here is what I believe to be true. If I'm going to bet to be the best speaker Uganda has ever had, the next question is, how? I said the same thing when I first addressed this subject about odds. I know some of you like betting, and I'm sure you've been betting on the Premier League. And there are many of you who have lost badly. Actually, you have already lost. Most people have already lost. So, I told you that my odds are different. My odds are not the odds of other people. Because when you see my history, nobody has ever given me a chance to win, including becoming president of DP. Nobody thought it was possible because the mathematics was not there. They said DP is a Uganda Catholic party. I'm not a Muganda. Though I'm baptized a Catholic, my family roots are Protestant. So everybody dismissed me. But here I am. When I went to the elections for Parliament, we also faced the problem of stock Eyenkya, new stock. But I think Ugandans don't just want a competition between the new stock and the old stock. They want the right stock. Even if you are new, if you are the wrong stock, you are not going to help people. Like I read somewhere, those of us who have been in politics for long and those who are new, we should not be fighting. Because when you start a fight between the present and the past, you'll lose the future. All of us are focusing on the future. Our focus is not what is going to happen on the 25th. Our focus is what sort of parliament we shall have in the 5 years. Just like there is a difference between a wedding day and a marriage. Great wedding and a terrible marriage. So, let us not reduce this discussion to who will win the speakership. The discussion is who will best deliver what the citizens of Uganda want. Why do people ask how I will become speaker? The only thing that in their mind disqualifies me is that I am not NRM. They have doubts of my victory, not because of what I am, but because of what I am not. Isn't it funny?
Abalungi abatuuliriza era abatulaba olunaku olwaleero tuchaddeko ewa Sheikh Asiraf Dembe.
Sebo sanyusa okubalaba amannya agange Yezeseeka Asiraf Dembe akola ku bizibu by'enjawulo. Omuntu singa aba alina ebirwadde musomereddwa tunywa amazzi ga lukuya nga bw'obadde ogalaba tugenda abantu ku kyoto ne twokya emizimu emibi egibabaamu n'okulombeddwa abantu singa abeera ng'ali wano atuuse sobola okumulombereddwa ne waba atatuuse nga mpadde amannya ge naye ng'ali wala maneetaase enamba yange yeno eri 070736 namwe bannyinaffe abali ebweru oyagala okuba nti oyagala okulombera ku ddwa ng'olina ebizibu visa zibuze amaka gakolongotana sente zikola zimpita mu ngalo ojja kumpeereza ekifaananyi kyo n'amanyago ebyo byokka bijja kummala nja kukulombera edduwa ojja kutereera olunaku olusembayo mu mwezi mba n'edduwa eyawamu ffenna n'abalwadde bange abakadde n'abapya. Salaamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Instead of saying we can't elect him because he is this, They are saying we can't elect him because he is not this. But that logic cannot apply in the crisis in which we are. Parliament faces a crisis of confidence as I talk. Who can restore the confidence of the citizens of Uganda in the parliament? You saw what has happened. I'm sure some of you are shocked by the conduct of your members of parliament. They're moving like this. They're being swayed by the wind. Is that really leadership? There's a saying that only dead fish flow with the water. A fish which is alive decides which direction it is going. Even when the water is flowing in the opposite direction, the fish says, I'm going that way. So we have now the danger of having a political environment of dead fish that are swinging in all sorts of directions. I already told you earlier of the member of parliament elected to the 12th parliament who was attacking me on social media when I mentioned the famous Rolls-Royce, which unfortunately has now been degraded. I've seen it on a breakdown from Katwe. I mean, the makers of Rolls-Royce must be embarrassed. That's not how they transport a Rolls-Royce in the UK. It is put on a nice flat bed, even covered with a car cover, and then driven by people who are even wearing uniform and overalls. Ekitiibwa kya Rolls-Royce bakivodde nnyo. It is like going to dig in a wedding dress. Can you imagine going to the Lusuku in a Kadali? I think all the brides in the world will just say, if that's the case, we are not going to wear it again. Why is it happening? Because there is a crisis of confidence. So, I am not NRM, given. I am DP. DP is a historical party, the oldest party in Uganda, with a clear history and clear principles. The next question. If not being NRM is a disqualification for a high office in Uganda today, in a government led by the NRM, why have I been a cabinet minister? Yet, I remain DP. The cooperation we have with the NRM. Under Article 1F, which is the principles of the cooperation, we stated that the parties commit to working in the best interests of Uganda and Ugandans, working to honor the national motto, for God and my country, and building and maintaining public confidence in the integrity of governance processes. So, who has the final say in the matter of who becomes speaker? I'm asking these questions because if you ask the wrong questions, then you'll definitely get the wrong answer. I've already said logically that there is a crisis. If you're very sick, are you going to ask about the political party, the tribe, or the religion of the doctor who can cure you? At that moment, that is irrelevant. But a discussion by relatives of a patient who is about to die about the religion, tribe, and political party of the doctor who is supposed to save the life of this parliament. That kind of thinking is the thinking that has brought problems to Uganda in the past. Fortunately, leadership must be about objectives.
Munsi buli omu alina ekirooto kuba kuwaguza kulafuubana n'okulemerako okutuuka ku buwanguzi. Ddala wamma ggwe luba lunaku mulindwa okyasobeddwa eka ne mu kibira nga weebuuza omuntu omutuufu anaakutuusa ku makula g'ebirooto byo oba okooye kuferebwa. Kankwanjulire aba Brand Pro Property Services Limited abeegulidde erinnya mu kutuukiriza ebirooto by'abantu ebyekuusa ku ttaka. Bagula wamu n'okutunda ettaka n'amayumba ku buli luguudo lwa Uganda wamu n'okwetooloola ensi yonna mu mawanga agatali gamu nga USA, India wamu ne Bungereza. Tulina estates eziwedde okuzimbibwa. Gano makula bukula weegulire ennyumba ey'ekirooto kyo olwaleero ku bbeeyi esoboka. Naawe anoonyeeza okupangisa tuzirina ng'ate tusobola n'okukulaakulanya ettaka, amayumba oba estates zo ne zeegombesa buli muntu. Oyagala saveya oba olina ekizibu kyonna nga kyekuusa ku ttaka, bitukwase ng'osirike. Tusangibwa ku MT House ku mwaliiro ogusooka Room 5 ewazana ku Entebbe Road okuliraana ekizimbe kya Muguluma Empire. Osobola okutukubira oba okutuweereza obubaka ku WhatsApp namba zaffe noti 773 216 588 noti oba noti 703 824 noti 79 ne ku website www.brandpro.co.ug. ate mwe bankuba kyeyo ebyammwe byateredde anti osobola okugula poloti oba okufuna ennyumba n'okomawo nga buli kimu kiri malidaadi saana. Sebatuka abafera olwaleero ng'okolagana ne Brand Pro Property Services Limited tutuukiriza birooto.
And when we came into an agreement with the NRM, we established a framework for Uganda, not just a framework for DP and NRM, a framework for Uganda. And the three things we said: that we would consolidate and strengthen existing constructive and enduring working relationship between the parties in the areas of political dialogue, justice, rule of law, and constitutionalism, based on mutual respect, reciprocity, common interest, and respect for the sovereignty and independence of the parties. To provide a comprehensive framework for promoting understanding, encouraging contact, results-oriented dialogue, and cooperation. And thirdly, to strengthen political relations and promote exchanges and mutual understanding on issues of common and national interest. I repeat, who has the final say on the question of the position of Speaker? Norbert Mao says the party that should have the final say is called Uganda. You heard what the president said in Chankwanzi. And the president is not only the president of Uganda, he is also the chairman of the ruling party, National NRM. But people are responding to all sorts of messages from all sorts of quarters. Fortunately, all these things are undressing people. By the time this week is over, Ugandans will know who exactly can lead them. There will be between leaders and masqueraders. So, people are eating their words. Comedians are having a field day. I saw one pretending to be making phone calls on behalf of the PA of the former speaker, calling all her great friends, and the phones are either busy or they are not available. Others are now trying to do what you call revisionism. They are trying to sanitize. They are saying, what has Mao done anyway? Every Ugandan has been in this struggle. It is not just Mao. I won't argue with that. They are saying Mao has not done anything over and above what Ugandans have done. I've been hearing that, I've been seeing it. Because there are those who think, I like Butala. I have enough Butala. Everybody has condemned the rot in Parliament. I accept that. And I give credit to those who have exposed it, particularly the civil society. The exhibitionists, the activists on social media, those who have been on X Spaces and so on. But those who are making this statement are saying, Mao has not played any unique role. Indeed, even the president, we have now seen letters where the president has been ordering investigations. What has Mao done which is special? Everybody has been condemning the rot. Okay, let's look at it this way. When Al-Shabaab started attacking the countries of East Africa, everybody condemned it, isn't it? But was that enough to send a message to Al-Shabaab to stop? Why is UPDF being praised? All these regions have armies. All of them have spokespersons who were condemning Al-Shabaab. But it is the UPDF which said, this must end. We can't go on like this. Let's go. And they stormed Somalia. What did they do? They took action. You can also condemn corruption while watching TV. You can also write an article. You can be a commentator. You know, I used to have a guard. Long ago, there was a guard. You know these guards with arrows? I had a guard. At that time, we had a son who was still a baby. So one day the guard came and said, "Boss, a snake has entered the garage. This is the person I employ to guard my home." He is instead giving a situation report. Instead of telling me a snake entered, I killed it. Because that's his job. He looked for me and said a snake has entered the garage. In the garage, we had a pile of wood. Obviously, there's no way we would find the snake. Remember, he is the guard. I had to start telling him, snakes don't like the smell of petroleum products. Take this money and buy some little diesel. come and pour it over the pile of wood, the snake will come out. That's how the snake came out, and we killed it. But in the meantime, we were worried. What if the snake has entered the bedroom where our baby was sleeping? Ladies and gentlemen, action is what makes a difference, not commentators. Uganda has the highest number of commentators per capita. Everybody has an opinion on how something can be solved. So between those who were analyzing the origins of Al-Shabaab, how it became strong, and the UPDF, which gathered their weapons and headed to Somalia, in which we even lost many. Even we had helicopters crashing. Between our UPDF and the commentators, who are the heroes of the anti-terrorist campaign against Al-Shabaab? Another example. Everybody condemned the rigging of the 1980 elections against UPC. Even my own glorious party. They held press conferences and condemned the rigging. They condemned Paul Mwanga. They won, by the way. I've said here before why I believe DP won. I spoke to the late President, Dr. Semogerere, President of our party, and I asked him, why are you so sure that our party won? And he told me he got a phone call from Mr. Vincent Sekono, Secretary of Electoral Commission at that time, congratulating him for winning. So the elections were rigged. Everybody was outraged. But it was that small group with their 27 guns that said, we can't go on like this. And they took off to the bush. They are here now in power for more than 40 years. While the experts in press conferences and analysis are still continuing to analyze. Norbert Maudu, which went beyond the analysis and comments. The problem we were dealing with was the problem of an individual occupying an office. There was a need for somebody to threaten that office in a credible manner. You all know Newton's first law. A body will continue in the same state of motion until another force acts on it. So the same state of motion was going to continue in Parliament. You saw the endorsements. Even those who are now saying they are now opposing the corruption. Unfortunately, internet doesn't forget. Imagine their grandchildren. You know, we have now known the two categories of politicians, the vertebrates and invertebrates. You remember your biology lesson? Invertebrates are the what? Those without a spine and backbone. Ebisani. And those that can stand straight with a backbone. So now, when you are looking at a politician, first ask yourself, is this one an invertebrate or a vertebrate? The same applies for speaker. You need a speaker who is an invertebrate or a vertebrate. Again, back to physics, there was inertia. Do you know how much force you need to overcome inertia? I didn't do it alone. But I had to step forward and say, let's go. Someone must say, let's go. We provided the spark. So, there was and there is now evidence of abuse of office. Everybody condemned the abuse. But nobody threatened to remove the office from the abuser of the office, except Norbert Mao. Nobody threatened that office more than Mao. There were others, of course, who stepped forward and spoke a lot of things. But my candidature was the most serious and the most credible. In the same way that in 1980-81, there were many forces that tried to take on the UPC government. But there was one which was most serious and most credible. There was inertia. Messi for speaker rallied Ugandans, created momentum which overcame the inertia. Now, as we talk, this brings to mind what I saw the former editor-in-chief and managing editor of the Monitor wrote on X, Charles Onyango-Bo. He was quoting a Nigerian proverb which says that the world is unfair. Mao is the person who should be speaker because he led this fight with maximum risk, not only to his life, but even the life of his family. I told you before, I was being warned, you are going to be poisoned, you are going to be ambushed, you are going to die. That did not stop me. And now he said that the world is unfair. The Nigerians say, monkey they do the work, baboon they chop. But differently, we remained steady. I was like a lion leading the hunt, tackling a fierce beast. Of course, the hyenas and jackals were taking cover because you're watching how the fight is going first. Because if the lion does not win the fight, then what can you, a hyena, do? While the lion fought, the hyenas were taking cover, showing their faces once in a while to see how it is going. Not daring even to step forward, not even supporting any side. When the signal came that the beast had been subdued, then they sprang into action to feast. But I want to tell you, fellow Ugandans, even if a hyena eats the food of the lion, it doesn't become a lion. That's what we call scavenger politics. Our history has parallels of scavenger politics. And I'm going to use one which is not very flattering, but I promised you I'm going to speak the truth. And I also want to be on the right side of history. As a matter of fact, I'd rather be on the right side of history than to be the speaker. If I have a choice between, why should I be a speaker when I'm on the wrong side of history? I'd rather be on the wrong side of history and miss the position of speaker. So let me share with you the parallel in our history of scavenger politics. By 1985, the UPC government that had rigged the elections was severely weakened by the pressure, military pressure of the NRA. The NRA was there in the bush putting military pressure. And that gave an opportunity for the generals that were part of the Uganda National Liberation Army, the government army, to scavenge on the government. So they took over power. But the coup makers could not sustain the government. The pressure had been put by other people. These ones took advantage of the situation and entered into government. A government they could not sustain. Now, this is what I call the politics of improvisation. That's the same thing I'm seeing. There's improvisation going on. In football, even substitutes must have been in the training camp. You don't just say, is there any footballer in the crowd? Come and wear this shirt. The people who sit on the substitutes bench must be people who are mentally prepared. As I said, the NRA had weakened UPC. The generals in the government army took advantage and overthrew the government. They could not sustain it. Eventually, the real torchbearers of the people's cause came to the fore to take charge of the change they had precipitated. That's why I'm telling Uganda, it's a matter of time. Sometimes you can be anointed, but you don't even assume the position immediately. I think David was anointed, but for 17 years he was running for his life. Can you imagine? You are with the anointing, but you can't access the throne because of forces. Even Uganda has so many forces right now. But we must not fear them, because this country is going to change, whether anybody likes it or not. Things differently, and I'm not complaining, because unlike others, me, I don't have any sense of entitlement. But I believe in destiny. So today, I want to say that no one has the final word. Even God, by the way, still has something to say about this speakership. And he's going to speak. And God can whisper into important ears the truth. And he's going to do it. God still has a statement to make about this. I told you this before, because you people were looking like those armies that faced Goliath. I even told you about David and Goliath that day here. But you are not listening, because you are terrified. You are looking with fear. And I defined for you what fear is. That fear means false evidence appearing real. F-E-A-R. Haven't you proved that it is now right? All the money was actually false evidence. All these material things were false evidence. All the endorsements were false evidence appearing real. But for you, you are thinking that that is the reality. But it was only appearing to be the reality. I have preached from this podium. Sometimes I feel like a pastor. But Ugandans don't listen. What is truly mine will come to me in due course. My destiny will unfold. Because destiny indicates a destination, and it is a matter of time. And what is truly mine will be that place which is the best for me. To our allies in the NRM, the speakership is not just a matter for the NRM. It's not just a matter for the members elected to the 12th Parliament. It's a matter for all citizens. Since the MPs represent the citizens, they cannot ignore the public sentiment. I'm calling upon all Ugandans from now onwards, call your member of parliament and tell them to vote for Mao. If them in 2031. And what my candidature offers is a sharp contrast to the false dichotomy that members of opposing parties are disjoint sects. Instead, my candidature offers a choice for us to move forward together as partners to achieve the promise of a new Uganda, united, free, peaceful, and prosperous. To my friends in the NRM and to President Museveni, let us reclaim the spirit of 1986. Because at this point, we cannot afford to improvise. Why do I speak of the spirit of 1986? In 1986, the NRM and the DP were in a partnership. That partnership lasted for 10 years. That partnership was not accidental. After all, the party that had been cheated was DP. It was not UPM. The UPM did not have votes to steal. To protect it. They even only got one member of parliament. Today we are being laughed at that we have 6 members of parliament. Please read your history also. The majority of those who died in the war that brought the NRM into power were DPs. Those skulls and bones in Luwero are DPs. Sometimes I'm shocked by how recklessly the DP members talk. Because they're only looking at Mere ya lero. I see them on TV. Mao yafuna anze safuna. Am I the one who gives the position? Mao yagabe before. If I were the one appointing ministers, you would blame me. But instead of that, for even keeping the door open, your only problem is okufuna mu. We have seen so many people who have kufuna mu. Even in the meantime, there are people who went and they kufunad. You can even kufuna from a witch doctor. You can kufuna from it. But it is not about okufuna. Others are saying, all that Mao is doing, he's negotiating for a position. That is not my intention. I don't think I would take all the risk I've taken. Actually, the best way to negotiate for a position would have been to be one of the endorsers. And I would have been the chief endorser. And this story would have been different if I had become an endorser. Do you think I didn't have a choice to be an endorser? I had a choice to be a chief endorser. And probably I would now be negotiating the next deal. But I stuck my neck out. We cannot choose leaders through improvisation. Fortunately, these few weeks we have seen a lot. We have now realized that actually maturity does not come with age. I've seen old people acting like adolescents. Even kindergarten kids have shown more understanding of issues. But because of shamelessness, they are now trying to explain. If you have made a wrong decision, first of all, admit that you are wrong. Quickly. And then preferably first keep quiet. I saw the endorsers, the way they flocked to Mukono the other day, hugging everyone that was there. And I'm sure they have now blocked the other number now. I'm a politician, but even me, I'm shocked. That's why I said we have now realized that maturity does not come with age. When I was last here, I told you that we had already won the spiritual war. In other words, just as David faced Goliath, Goliath was already dead in the spirit. Even the former speaker was already defeated in the spirit by the time I announced. The spirit had already fallen. What we saw falling the other day by way of the letter of withdrawal was merely the body following the spirit. The spirit was long dead. Because we believe in prayer. And I have said God still has something to say about this. And you people are going to be shocked. I'm going to come back here next week. Because the election is on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm going to come here. Unfortunately, I won't be wearing that horse hair. Those are going to be among the first changes of decolonization. Very hot country. We're in the tropics. Even in Britain, they no longer wear it. Yes. I think the last person, it was this lady Boothroyd who abandoned it. They don't wear it now. So, put in your calendar, Mao press conference on Tuesday as Speaker of Parliament. This has to happen so that you people can know that this is about you. Chiamba mwe. So I came this morning to reiterate my resolve to continue my efforts to persuade the country and the members of the 12th Parliament that of all those that have expressed their interest and those being interested in the position of Speaker, I am the one most suitable for such a time as this. I'm not in the business of a two-term Speaker. For me, I'm for this time. For such a time as this. So we are simply saying, this time, Mao. Yes. This time, Mao. Secondly, this press conference is also intended to declare that I intend to continue engaging the NRM in order that my candidature is considered alongside any other candidatures of those MPs who are members of NRM. Yes. On the basis of the cooperation we have. Yeah. Remember, in the first 5 minutes of the President's inaugural address at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds, he praised the Democratic Party alongside the Uganda People's Congress for being a positive force in uniting our country. Yeah. What President Museveni and I are doing, others want to scatter. Tuzimba bazimbulula. Fetu boba saasanya. I know the role of the Speaker. I don't have to repeat that. I know what it is like to moderate debate. I've been an advocate since 1994. Now 32 years on the role of advocates. So, what is the thinking behind my insistence that the NRM has a lot to gain by rallying behind me? Because I understand the challenges. I don't know how many of you have read President Museveni's book, What is Africa's Problem? Today I ask, what is Uganda's problem? Okay, we can say corruption, poverty, and so on.
Poor leadership.
The candidate being interested in the position of Speaker and I are answers to different questions. We used to have a priest in Makerere who told us of the time he went to America and he found people wearing t-shirts on which the following words were written: Jesus is the answer. Then he asked, what is the question? So, if you say Mao is the answer to the crisis in Parliament, what is the question? Remember, I'm currently the chairman of IPOD, which I believe in. IPOD is the body which brings together members of all the parties to carry out dialogue on how to solve the problems of Uganda. Later I will explain in very serious terms the thinking. I have been insulted more than anyone else for preaching unity across parties. Every day I've been insulted for serving as a minister. Now those who have been insulting me are lobbying to be ministers. Even members of DP, the DP members who held the press conference and even broke my portrait in Parliament, they are the ones who accompanied Honorable Nsibambi to State House. When the time for photos came, they ran away. Why do you do something you don't believe in? What is the difference between me who goes openly and you who is in hiding? In fact, you are more of a thug. When I announced that I was going to be Speaker, even members of my own party descended on me. They prophesied. And now the prophecy is in the dustbin. So, let me explain why I believe that the NRM should rally their support for Norbert Mao. The agreement we have is fundamental. We have been faithful to our part of the agreement as DP. We have served faithfully. The NRM has not kept all its commitments, and many times I'm being attacked from within my own party. They say, we were supposed to get another position. You are there alone. What are you doing there? What are you doing about this? I've written so many letters. I've raised these issues with the president. Even when the opportunity came and there was a reshuffle and other people who were out of cabinet were brought in, DP was still ignored. So the question is, if the unity of Uganda is the precondition for tackling the problems we face, then why should we undermine unity by saying that now you are NRM? That is the reason why the president invited me to Chankwanzi. Against the wishes of Mama Rolls Royce.
She's now in the garden.
Being told to stay in the compound and not even approach the so-called bedroom. So, I was invited to Chankwanzi. That should give you a signal that the president is serious about the nucleus of the unity. You can have unity. You can have unity with other political parties. You can invite members of the opposition to meet with them. But everything must have a nucleus. And the DP-NRM cooperation is the nucleus of the broader unity of Ugandans as we make that leap forward. It is not about positions. It's about what we want to achieve. So let us raise now the 4 fundamental expectations our citizens have. Any government, no matter who is the leader, has to respond to. Number 1, unity of the country. This is what we call the national question. The national question, as I talked about the last time, is how to bring diverse peoples, different languages, tribes, even interests, together in one nation. Julius Nyerere did it in Tanzania. How can you resolve the national question when politicians are fighting? The second is to ensure peace, security, and tranquility. The third is to ensure economic advancement of the people. The fourth is to ensure democracy in all its dimensions. There is no likelihood that any political party would tell the electorate that it does not believe in unity, peace, development, and democracy. We can therefore assume that all leaders, irrespective of their political affiliation, would aim to work for these fundamentals. The movement system, you remember it, which many of us opposed, perhaps prematurely, attempted to deal with a major contradiction or a distortion, namely that despite all the parties claiming to be promoting the same fundamentals, yet every 5 years the voters are required to select on the basis of some superficial differences a party to perform the tasks that in fact all the parties agree should be done. If all the parties in Uganda, DP, UPC, NRM, NUP, PFF, and so on, all agree that we need unity, peace, development, and democracy, then the question is, what are we thinking when we go into the elections and we say, all these people agree on what needs to be done, but you choose one of them? So, the movement system was based on putting aside the party labels in order to allow the electorate to choose the best individuals so that those individuals can then meet in Parliament to discuss the details of the agreed tasks and then cooperate in getting it done. That is the reason why in 2022 we agreed to cooperate. Now, on corruption, this is just a small battle won. I don't think we are yet even 20% in the war against corruption. This is a very, very small victory. So let us not jump around too much. But these are my thoughts on corruption in Parliament. I already told you that Mao is an answer to a different question. And that question is, who can best lead Parliament in tackling the problems of Uganda, including fighting corruption? I agree that the greatest vulnerability of the Parliament today is not only the appearance of corruption, but the reality of it. Therefore, if we are to consolidate the institutional power of the Parliament, we have to not only focus on the problems in the delivery of services, enforcing laws, and representing the public interest, but also to fight corruption. There are many reasons why corruption has to be fought. Since our biggest challenge is underdevelopment, we have to tackle impediments to development. Corruption is the biggest impediment to development. Corruption impedes economic development in a number of ways. When officials with political power demand bribes, resources go into private pockets instead of being channeled towards production. This becomes a great distortion of economic incentives. Corruption is also a kind of regressive tax upon the population. All countries have petty corruption. You know, the type which is carried out by poorly paid officials. But the largest amount of stolen money goes into the pockets of elites who use their power to divert resources meant for the general population. Public officials who seek payoffs in the form of bribes in order to do their work waste a lot of time and delay projects. Wealth creators spend valuable time chasing officials to make decisions instead of focusing on running their businesses. At the same time, officials spend most of their time in a kind of gamesmanship to seek private gain at public expense. This is what economists call rent seeking. We reject the belief that bribery fosters efficiency by acting as a lubricant to incentivize officials to act quickly in processes such as land transactions, registration of businesses, securing licenses, and getting appointments with high-level officials. We reject this school of thought and believe that procedures should be simple and straightforward. Red tape should be eliminated, and every individual should have equal access to government. Corruption can also undermine political order, because where there is a general perception that officials and politicians are corrupt, the legitimacy of the government declines in the eyes of the common people, and the sense of trust that is critical if the state is to run will collapse. To borrow the word of President Trump, I am here to drain the swamp. We must stop the hemorrhage of public resources. That is the key task of the next Speaker of Parliament. So, I propose a diagnostic endeavor to carry out a forensic audit of Parliament, the finances, assets, streamlining workforce issues such as recruitment, remuneration, promotion, capacity building. That is why today I celebrate our brave and public-spirited effort to stop individual power from overtaking institution power in Parliament. Electing the right speaker for the right time is only the beginning of the work that we have. We have to restore integrity. That is why my candidacy is not simply a political challenge to the parliamentary status quo. It's a moral challenge. As the president said in Chankwanzi, the final verdict is with the members of the 12th Parliament. Anybody else can only recommend. If the president of Uganda can say, we have made our recommendations, then what is the point of having an election? But more importantly, power must be driven by purpose. The office of Speaker is very powerful. It gives you an opportunity to do good things, but it can also give you an opportunity to do bad things, as we have seen. Power without purpose will lead to a disaster. And that purpose must be based on the interests of the people of Uganda. We want a speaker who will lead with purpose. We don't want a speaker who is a project. That is why we must insist that power must be our servant and not our master. I'm seeking this position for a purpose. Over the weeks, I've stated my record, I've stated my journey. I've outlined the charge of the position, and I've consistently declared the purpose for which I seek the position. Yesterday, the chairman of the NRM Electoral Commission made a public statement where he said, as of now, the NRM does not have a candidate for speaker. He said it. The symbols we saw on ballot papers are well known. The chairman of the Electoral Commission made a statement and posted a video on X. And today, I saw the General Secretary of the PLU saying he agrees with that statement. I hope after this press conference, there will be less confusion. And I really ask the members of 12th Parliament, stop the confusion. You are all over the place, swinging in all sorts of directions. Even your followers now don't know what to do. The person who made the pronouncement in Mukono has said he now agrees with what the chairman of the NRM Electoral Commission has said. And this is a summary of what the chairman of the Electoral Commission said. First, he talked about the qualification of a speaker. He said, to be a speaker, you must be able to withstand pressure, and you must have the mettle to be the speaker. Who has demonstrated that more than me in this period? And he said that the stepping down from being a candidate by the former speaker has, and I quote, set the ground for a new process. As a cooperating partner of the NRM, I have read and mastered the NRM Constitution. I've read their code of conduct, and I pay attention to what their leaders say. After all, if you are seated in a vehicle which someone else is driving, you have got to watch how they are driving. He said that the choice is now on the party to do the roadmap. He then said, the chairman will guide us on the roadmap. But he also mentioned the relationship between the NRM and the PLU. He called the PLU a pressure group. And he said, as a pressure group, they are autonomous and they are free to make their pronouncements and endorsements. I agree with that. I have no problem with that. But what I know is that they are within the NRM. He also said The Central Executive Committee can also do head hunting. So, he has clarified on that statement, the Mukono pronouncement. What we want to avoid is improvisation. Someone who has not actively shown interest, being interested, and therefore appearing to be a project. That reminds me of a president called Godfrey Binaisa. You know, Godfrey Binaisa was lobbying to be, I don't know whether an ambassador. Then they told him, you are going to be president. You can imagine the disaster which followed. He started doing things. He's the one who introduced that famous phrase, okugwa mu bintu. Falling into things. Now, the politics of falling into things should not be encouraged, particularly for a position such as that of Speaker. And we are going to be alive, all of us. I don't know how things will move after this. My job is to warn. But I'm also a respected elder within the PLU, as you know. So let me offer some advice. And this is not the first time I've offered advice. The first I gave one time was when some of them wanted to register a political party. And I told them that we also face that dilemma as members of Uganda Young Democrats, UYD. There was a time we were so frustrated with our party. It appeared stuck, they were bickering, they were slow. We wanted to form a party. Fortunately, we've eventually debated and we agreed that no. What we should endeavor to do is to ensure that one of us takes over the leadership of the party. That's why I'm here. It is the UYD which propelled me. So, I agree that the PLU will determine the next generation of leaders of NRM, from the top to all the levels. That's okay. That requires discipline. The other example is the Tea Party in the Republican Party of America. They became a force, and they're the ones who revolutionized the Congress and the Senate, and they even were the force behind Donald Trump. Now, in a situation where any survey, any of you in the media, you have seen all surveys that have been done online, offline. Even if you go to the border stage now and you ask, who do you want to be the speaker? They'll say Mao.
Mao.
I have seen the debate which has followed the Mukono pronouncement. It is mixed. We have got to avoid the politics of falling into things. So what is my expectation? My expectations are very modest. My expectation is not that I should be imposed on the Parliament as Speaker. Not to say tumulese. It should be aze tumusimye. You first have to come, then you are appreciated. You cannot be brought. I expect that, like I was invited in Chankwanze, I will be invited to the NRM caucus in the spirit of unity, which we all agree on. and we talk objectively about the agenda of the 12th Parliament, and we agree. I've been called a visitor in NRM. As a visitor, you must recognize boundaries. And the head of the home can change the rules anytime. The head of the home can say lunch will be eaten at 10 a.m. Supper will be eaten at midnight. As a visitor, really, you have very little to say about that. The visitor can say all lights must be switched off by 8 a.m. and the visitor has to comply. That one I accept. So, what I believe is that there should be clear processes. But if one is locked out, then you feel that you have not been treated well. I'm glad the president intervened and I was not locked out of Chankwans. I believe I'll not be locked out of facing the caucus, which is the caucus of the voters. Let the caucus be the ones to pronounce themselves and say, in our considered opinion, for the following reasons, this is the person we will rally behind. I still believe I have an opportunity and a chance to be the speaker. You know how I think. One day somebody told me, are you sure you can be speaker? What chance do you have? Then I said, by the way, if I'm on the top floor of a very tall building and the building catches fire and I'm told that I have a 1% chance to survive if I jump, I'll jump immediately. I've not heard anybody saying Mao has no chance. There are those who had said the former speaker was too big to fall. But that's the same false evidence appearing real. That's not David's logic. The logic of the generals who ran away from Goliath was that the guy is too big, there's no way we can beat him. David, with his sling, turned that logic upside down and said, the guy is so big I can't even miss him. That's the logic with which I approach this fight. Others are saying, too big, how can we manage? I say, oh, too big, how can I miss? Even with a butida. Let me now speak about the opposition finally. Life is very... The opposition should thank me. You were supposed to be walloped. Yeah. You heard it. They said that in the last parliament you were swallowed. That in this parliament you are going to be walloped. You should thank me for disarming those who wanted to wallop you. Because walloping means a thorough beating. Has any of you gone to the dictionary to see the meaning of walloping? It's a thorough beating. The kind of beating like in football when you are beaten 8-0. That is really being walloped. Now, this is my thinking on the opposition. And that is why the NRM should not think they are risking anything. The first question is Mao a patriot? And that question should go to the Patriotic League of Uganda. Because even among them they have unpatriotic people. Because you don't just become a patriot by wearing a league. That I have seen some of the most immoral people wearing the biggest rosaries. They're even the first in the line for Holy Communion. So let other people talk about you. That's why I said, is Mao a patriot? When I was risking my life to go and talk to Kony, was I doing it for myself and my family? I wanted Uganda to be peaceful. When I was campaigning so that President Museveni's votes are a block where I come from, was I doing it for myself? It's because I don't only preach unity, I practice it. I have been to many countries, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. We have been the biggest advocates for iPod. That is because we are not dead fish. We swim in a direction we believe is right. And sometimes you pay a price. That is what DP is known for. And that's why we are respected. Our leader was killed. Our party was hated here in Buganda, simply for telling the king of Buganda that don't enter into partisan politics. And he refused to listen, and you saw it ended in tears in 1966. We have 5 years of the 12th Parliament. I don't want a situation where people will say, Mao warned us about improvising a speaker. So to my friends in the opposition, being opposition is not a badge of honor. It means your votes were not enough for you to form the government. That's what it means. But I hear some people take a lot of pride. They even quarrel. We told you opposition. I mean, it is like you have a loser's cup and you say, no, you can't come and help us carry the loser's cup. Honestly, what sort of politics is that? Being opposition means you have the loser's cup. Now, nobody celebrates the loser's cup. I think in football, the loser's cup is the one they said, the one of third and fourth position. So, they take so much pride. Oh, you see opposition, you. And this is like saying, you are not one of us who lost. People are fighting to be winners, for you are fighting that you losers are already enough. The only way you can be winners is if the losers keep becoming more and more. Then you become more than the winners. Then you become the new winners. So there is some mental illness in some of our leaders, which I see. Because I've seen some people had been hired to attack me and so on. All of a sudden, when things change, they are not looking good anymore. DP has a PhD in opposition politics. Because we have opposed and opposed and opposed, and yet we were the first government before independence. Some of you young DPs have even forgotten that your party has ever been in power. You have been threatened so much, you are so timid that you can't even walk upright. Stand up and walk upright. You are heirs to a proud tradition. If the president of Uganda is not ashamed to introduce himself as a DP, though he says that his DP is not the one of Mao, I need to find out which one was his DP. He says, no, that is DP of Mao. Maybe because of thinking in the DP elite. Because if you have people whose only thinking is Mao yafuna anze safuna, that's the reason why they are running around. But it is not true. There was a time they also funad, only that they have forgotten. There was a time they also got. And Mao was leading his normal life, not complaining. The Baganda say, yagaliza ofune, atayagaliza tafuna. Because I was doing okwagaliza, that's where I ended up in the cabinet. But to make that a matter of life and death to the extent that you want to tear your party apart, you look at the way the opposition is. FDC came from NRM. They then said Mugisha Muntu is a mole. He left. Then those who remained again disagreed. That means Mugisha Muntu was not the problem. Now you have PFF. So a party which was solid like FDC now has 10 members of parliament. 9. It was, in our place there, it was the biggest challenger to NRM. Now, after NRM, the next party is DP.
Yeah.
Then we had our friends in DP here. They said Mao is a dictator. He is not leading the party well. That he is a mole. He doesn't want to work together with other opposition. That this is a party for their grandfathers, and Mao is an imposter. That my umbilical cord was not buried in their graveyards. So they left. They went to NUP. They reached there, then they quarreled. I wasn't there. They were by them. So was I still the problem? No. So I have given advice to our sister party, NRM, and it is just advice. I'm in no position to direct anyone. I've also given advice as an elder to the pressure group of the PLU. Now I want to talk to, and in that I said, you know, if you are really serious about the position of speaker, who should you listen to? Which radio station should you tune in? Should you tune in to NRM FM or PLU FM? I think you are better off tuning in. You can tune on both, but you need to pay more attention to the other one because that is the party that had a symbol in the election. That's what I would do.
Yes.
Now, the parties that don't get sufficient votes to form the government are the ones called the opposition. The opposition does not mean anybody who is a nuisance, then you're opposition. Otherwise, the robbers and rapists would also say they're opposition because they're opposing the law, they are interfering with the peace and tranquility. Opposition is based on the results of the last election. The goal of the opposition should be to defeat and replace the party in power at the next election. I took this from some of the notes I had prepared. Remember, I was supposed to give a speech in Chankwanzi, the speech which was aborted. So I took this paragraph which I'm sharing with you. In our constitution, that opportunity to replace the party in power comes every 5 years. So the opposition can do this through small successive victories, and that would then reduce the faith of the public in the government, so that in the next election, the electorate is persuaded to put them in power. Now, this is where DP is different from other parties. Listen carefully. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there is little merit in an opposition party making its main job to obstruct the government's efforts to perform the task it was elected to do. Let me repeat this. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there are people even who wanted to be president of the party. For what? So that you do what? So that you call yourself Senkagale. for me, I want to be the speaker because of the reforms I'm going to introduce. And I've already mentioned some of them. We discovered that the Parliament of Uganda sits for less than 90 days in a whole year. Sitting of plenary. Under Mao's leadership, the minimum number of days must be 120.
Yeah.
Number two, we must have a calendar of Parliament set at the beginning of the session. The moment I'm elected speaker, we will have to sit in a multi-party committee and set the calendar for the Parliament so that we reduce surprises and uncertainties. The government would tell us their timetable and say, by March we are going to bring this law. By July we are going to bring this law. August we are going to bring this law. So we are all mentally prepared for it. Number three, I will ensure that a special session is held annually, and the agenda of that session must be based on suggestions from the public. It should focus on issues the public want. First of all, the majority of members of Parliament are not in touch with their public.
Right.
So we may as well directly invite the public to say, suggest, what do you want us to talk about? Do you want us to talk about the Ugandans that are being exported as labor? Do you want us to talk about land conflicts, land grabbing? Do you want us to talk about teenage pregnancy? The public should have an avenue. We also want the Prime Minister's question time to be a very serious session to ensure that Parliament upholds the principle of government accountability. It shouldn't be an empty ritual. You know, some of the questions that we hear, a member of Parliament asks, question 1, is the Prime Minister aware that bridge XYZ has collapsed? If so, what is the government doing about it? Then answer. Honorable, government is not aware. 2, question 2 does not arise. After all, we are not aware, so you can't ask us what we are going. That's what I call an empty ritual in question time. And that's why the role of the leader of opposition is very important, to face off with the leader of government business. Airtime must be given to elected representatives of the people. The speaker must not be interrupting members. If you go to the Hansard, the presiding officers of the House have spoken more words than most of the members of Parliament because they want to make a comment on every speech. It is like a referee wanting to touch the ball also. How can a referee want to touch the ball? If the other team is lousy, so be it. You can advise them after the sitting and say you played very badly. The moment the leader of opposition has spoken, automatically the presiding officer should say, leader of government business, do you have anything to say? Since for the first time, no member of Parliament will hide in the chorus of I and no. You will know exactly who voted on what issue, who supported which issue, and you, the media, will go and say, you know, somebody can say, I never supported that thing, you know. You go to the record of votes, because the moment the speaker says the votes are now open, everybody presses yes, no, and the record goes there to be stored for eternity until Jesus returns.
Yeah.
You know, we had that circus in the last Parliament. We had this Toji Kwatako lifting the age limit. Many of the members in the opposition were playing double. they are holding meetings and saying, we have no problem with this law, but how will our people, our voters see us? To the extent that when the speaker suspended some members, others went to lobby, please suspend us also. Otherwise, too far, to ground it too far. So the next day, the speaker brought a supplementary list. In addition to those I suspended yesterday, I hereby suspend the following also. What sort of parliament is that? What is that, leadership or dealership?
Dealership. The dealers should go.
Now, we also want some specific dates when the opposition sets the agenda. You know, the opposition go around saying, for us, we have no say. But these guys are many. When Mao is speaker, Mao is going to say, opposition, you also represent a section. Now, what is important to you? Bring it on in the agenda. No hiding. No hiding. Because they just keep reacting. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. How can you have politics of ping pong, ping pong? We cannot have ping pong. When are you going to initiate also? This time the government says the ping must come from your side. We are also going to do the ponging. So start. Like in a game, they say you serve now. You are saying that I'm bringing a bullet. You now bring your bullet and we see. That is what will happen. When I say, Right Honorable Speaker, I have thought about this thing carefully. And I'm doing it only for this time, the next 5 years, to save Parliament. The other idea that we have, I've already talked about recorded votes, to ensure transparency. Because there are those who, instead of saying no, they just yawn. We will revive the Independent Parliamentary Budget Office. Wow.
Yeah.
In addition, we want to stop this business of bringing mwana wa koja, mwana wa jaja. There must be a minimum of qualification for personal assistants and researchers. And we will make sure the resources are there. But when you're a member of parliament, you go to the village and they say, Mwana wa Senga is there, has no job. Take him to parliament. Then the only job they do is go and bring this money from the bank. Go and do this. After 5 years, what experience have they got which can make them employable? Zero. As party president, I'm proud that I've brought people to be my assistants. I've mentored them. You remember Elvis Kintu? I could not afford to keep him. Eventually, the Lord Mayor stole him. Went and assisted him. I've mentored so many others. You must get people who have potential, not people who are stuck in the village. If they are stuck in the village, first prepare them before bringing them. You cannot bring them immediately. We are also going to ensure that documents of parliament are translated in local languages. Parliamentary reports should be translated into local languages. You've seen how the election of speaker has become a national issue. Since when has the election of speaker become an issue for everybody? But now the vegetable sellers, borders, taxi touts, all of them are saying this issue of speakership, because we have made it we have made it clear to them that the kind of person elected speaker will determine the kind of Uganda we will have.
Correct.
Yeah. We will ensure that the gallery is open again. As you know, the gallery members the Ugandans don't know that they actually are entitled to go to the gallery. We should have a fixed number of people who can come and access the gallery on a first come, first served basis. Those days we used to walk from Makerere and they would give you little cards. If the cards are finished, they tell you the gallery is now full, try tomorrow. So people would go and queue. Have you seen people queuing to go to the gallery? People are queuing to go and beg for support from MPs. They are not interested in the discussion because they doubt whether it can change their lives. So the most important thing is, Mbaka ina kumpa yo champa. But somebody would say, I want to go and see whether the Mbaka is going to increase PDM money access to ensure that corruption stops in the district, or whether my school will get a teacher's house or a new classroom. People are not interested. That's why we said, make Parliament great again. So these are some of the ideas that we have put in place based on the experience that I have. I want to conclude by once again encouraging the members of the 12th Parliament to respect themselves if they want to be respected. But how can you be respected if you are swayed by this, like this? When I was preparing for this press conference, we had a chat with my wife, and she said, you know, she's a Ugandan and also British. So she said, I want you to have a British-style press conference. That I should come and make a 5-minute statement and go away, the way you see on BBC. Then I told her that, you know, we are Africans. In Africa, there is no time limit for a discussion. You sit and discuss until the matter is resolved. But for the Europeans, they say, we must agree in 30 minutes. We must agree in 1 hour. That's why you see they cannot solve their problems. Even that's why the war in Iran is not ending. Because they go for a conference and they say, this conference is going to take 2 hours. Because they don't understand human nature. But for us Africans, if there is a land dispute, we don't have opposition and the government, we don't have witnesses for the accused person, we don't have witnesses for the accuser. We solve the problem collectively. So everybody is a witness for everybody. Even if the accused person is saying something which is correct, a person who has been supporting the accuser will say, yes, 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 you have said the right thing. I agree with you. Because the purpose is to solve the problem and to restore harmony. So this conference is about harmony in Uganda. I hope you never skipped that mathematics lesson called sets. You know, in sets, you must know what is the set and the subset. You must know the intersection. So this press conference is about the intersection. In other words, what we all agree on as Ugandans. It is not about what we disagree on. So despite rejecting my wife's advice about a short statement, I've at least taken one advice. She said, be in time.
Uganda Eyenkya.